That's when they made the promise to the holy people that they would pray. Now, your personal prayer is something that is very personal to you as to how you pray to the holy people. A lot of times we find out that there are people that don't know how to pray, and they have never ever really felt like they needed to know how to pray. In the traditional way of our people, we use the corn pollen. I have a corn pollen pouch here that I carried for about 25 to 30 years. In the traditional teaching of our Diné, one of the things that we're always encouraged is to that is to say that we as Diné, we must always be able to pray. And so prayer is a teaching that has a lot of history. And the actual beginning of the history is the language. Sad is the meaning of the words. Is to say the language or the words in that we are allowed to use as surface people or as Diné. The story begins actually with the holy people using that sacred language to organize all things in the heavens and on the surface of Mother Earth, and even the organizing of Mother Earth. The word and that is applied to the making and the organizing of Mother Earth is Nasahataliyah. That means to say that the vegetation and everything was organized. In our language, we never ever have a word that says create, because you cannot create something out of nothing as far as the Neh and the teachings and that we've been given. And so it is that the word Hataliyah is very important. And so when the holy people were organizing Mother Earth and all things, they had words and the phrases and that all of the things that they were organizing would respond to. And so it was a sacred language with great power. And after the organizing Mother Earth was completed, they allowed their children that would occupy the surface of Mother Earth to continue to use the language. And they would speak with their children and instruct their children, the five-fingered being. And so the language remained on the surface of Mother Earth for a period of time. But then the children began to abuse and pervert the way that they were using the language. And they were moving parts of Mother Earth to go here, to do this and to do that. And they were putting gouges into Mother Earth and making mountains and so on. And just really having a lot of fun with the powers of the words and that they were allowed to use. So the holy people observed them for a while, and they said, we have to take that language away from them. Well, that was sort of the understanding that everyone that was on the surface of Mother Earth understood, that the holy people were going to take the language away from everyone. But there was one group of the children who called themselves Diné. They recognized themselves as coming from the presence of holy people and being able to continue existence on the surface of Mother Earth. They counseled together and they said, let's ask the holy people, our fathers and our mothers and that of the holy people, to allow us to keep the language. And so they found one person that was willing to do that. And so he went before the holy people and asked them to be allowed to keep the language. And the holy people refused. They said, we cannot allow that. And so he went back to the group and told them what the holy people had said. And so they counseled together again, and they sent him again to beg the holy people to allow the group of the Neh to continue using the language and to keeping the language on the surface of Mother Earth. And the second time he went, again he was refused. And so he went a third time after they counseled together, and again he was refused to keep the language. And finally they counseled longer, and they said, let's make some promises to the holy people. Let's make some real serious promises as to the use of the language, that we will not abuse the language, that we will not misuse the language, and that we'll use it only for sacred purposes and to raise our families. And so the fourth time, this representative went before the holy people, and the holy people responded to his proposal that the language would be used only in sacred purposes and used in sacred ways and would never be abused. And also the other thing is that they wanted to learn how to have all of the Neh being able to communicate with the holy people. And so the way that they said that you will communicate with us then hereafter is through what would be considered Todazin being Hatahtse. And that's an important teaching. Hatahtse, Hatatohtse is a word that we use, and so much that in the world today, among the word Hastzi, Hatahtse, Hatzi, that is an important word. It is a very sacred word in the way that it should be used. I see them using it at chapter meetings, and they say Hastzi, and then they think that they are saying, give me permission to speak. That's not the correct way to say the word and to use the word. The first time that the word Hatzi is used in your lifetime is when you first, as a child, begin to speak. Hatzi is the word that they give. And then thereafter, when you pray over the food before it is consumed or after it is consumed, you say, Chiyanya Hatzi. That means you spoke a prayer for the food. And also it is that when you have a special occasion to say a prayer, they say, which is to say, use those words, the sacred words, to speak for us to the holy people. And so that is part of the promises that we made to the holy people, is to use the sacred words when we are saying prayers. Now, the idea of saying prayers and that, a lot of times we find out that there are people that don't know how to pray. They have never ever really felt like they needed to know how to pray. In the traditional way of our people, we use the corn pollen. I have a corn pollen pouch here that I carried for about 25 to 30 years, and it's pretty worn out. And so I had to get a new one. And so this is my new corn pollen pouch. And it doesn't have a whole lot of corn pollen inside of it, but I have enough to serve the purpose. But this is the corn pollen. It's a fine dust looking thing. It's as corn pollen is, as pollen is, it's collected from the tassels of corn. And during the time when the corn pollinates, you get up early in the morning. If there's no wind, you have a great big pan or something. You tap the tassel into the pan and you collect it. You go from corn plant to corn plant. The more corn plants that you have, the more that you can collect. So you would do this every other day or something until you had a good amount of the corn pollen. And that is what we use in a prayer offering. And when you use the corn pollen, you take a little pinch of it. You can just a little pinch of corn pollen. You might not even get a pinch. You might just be able to touch your finger to it, but touch the corn pollen to your tongue and then put a little bit of it on where your spiral is up on top of your head. And then what's left, you sprinkle to the direction east. And you offer up a prayer. Now, your personal prayer is something that is very personal to you as to how you pray to the holy people. That is your own communication with the holy people. And you do address them. You taught again. Recognize them for the holy person that they are, or the holy being that they are. And then you offer up the desires of your heart and all of the things you want to ask for. And then you also express your gratitude for what you have. And just about anything you want to say, you can say. Now, many times when I'm driving down the road or something and I see something that touches me in a certain way, I'll express my gratitude. I don't have to stop in the middle of traffic or anything. I can say, thank you, holy people. I can't. I've seen this. I appreciate it. I appreciate the beauty that you have made for me to observe, and anything else. And even when I meet people, afterwards I'll thank the holy people that I have met those people. And so there are so many things to be grateful for. Thank you for allowing me to see, allowing me to hear, allowing me to smell, allowing me to taste, allowing me to touch these things that I have experienced with my physical form. Thank you. And then for your family, and then for your extended family, for your people. And there's so many things to be grateful for, and you express that to the holy people. In a ceremonial setting, there are set prayers and that. So when the original teaching of this, and being allowed to keep the language, that's when they made the promise to the holy people that they would pray. And that's what we do is in sacred settings. So when at a chapter meeting, you say Hasti, that would almost mean to say, I am going to pray for you, or I'm going to offer up a prayer. And so the misuse of that word in saying hasti is not a good thing to do. And there's other ways in that to ask permission to be allowed to speak. And so the teachings of our people in that regard is very extensive. Now, recently we have shared with you several different topics in that in the traditional teachings. And since then, of course, I've had the opportunity to meet many wonderful people. And some of these people are not much older than myself, but they kind of get after me and they say, you're not telling people enough. And they kind of, what we would call hashke, yada hashke, is to say that they get after me and they tell me that I'm not telling you enough about these things. And so it is that maybe from here on out I'll try to set a tone that gives you a little bit more information on some of these things and some of these topics and teachings. But the one about prayer is so very important. I think in Christianity, you have to recognize there are patterns for prayer in that. Sometimes I think that the Lord's Prayer is a good example as to a pattern of offering a prayer. And then the power of the words in that in prayer are so very important. And when I've looked at what Christianity has to offer, one of the greatest prayers that I have ever read, of course, is the one where Jesus is praying in the Garden of Gethsemane. And he is praying to his Father in heaven. And he has certain words in that he says that is so very important. That those powerful words in that are used in prayer, and that the words of your prayer have power, and they do have meaning. And the meaning comes from your heart and from your mind, from your spirit, from your very being. And so it's important to know how to pray and to be able to offer up prayers in a proper way, in a respectful way, and to worship your sacred being. And those are the things that we are told in Yitzodas and Holondo.
Hey, thanks for watching our videos. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss one of our uploads. Also, head over to our website, NavajoTraditionalTeachings.com. Sign up for our email list. Aket!